Calgary Flames have surprised a lot of people with a 4-0-1 start to the season. Jess Belmosto of Locked On Flames joins us to talk about how they did it and what it will take to keep it going. All that and more on today's Locked On NHL podcast.
You're Locked On NHL, your daily podcast on the National Hockey League. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Gil Martin here, and welcome everybody to the Monday edition of the Locked On NHL podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to thank everyone who makes Locked On NHL your first listen every day. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts so you get new episodes as soon as they drop. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet, and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. It is my pleasure to welcome back to the show the host of Locked On Flames, Jess Belmosto. And Jess, you've got to be happy with this surprising 4-0-1 start.
I am thrilled. I think that they really have outdone themselves, and this is really the start that they needed to get off to after the off season that they had. It was kind of like, let's get the morale up, and if we do losing, let's do it later.
Let's start with goaltending, because that was a big question. You trade Jakob Markstrom over the off season. How have they been doing in goal, and who's been getting the job done?
Yeah, so Dan Vladar and Dustin Wolf have been going every other game, and they've both been phenomenal. Jakob Markstrom's actually kind of struggling in New Jersey. So, I mean, it's working out for the Flames, I would say. Dan Vladar has been excellent, which I don't think a lot of people, including myself, necessarily expected, just because he's never had the workload of a starter. And obviously, with this being Dustin Wolf's first full season in the NHL, I would say he's adjusting quite nicely.
Have you seen anything different from Vladar that has made the difference this season so far?
I think he's more calm. He looks more focused, and the defense in front of him isn't as strong as it was last year or years before. So I don't know if it's, him maybe having to be more focused and locked in there, but he's always at the ready. I haven't really seen him look unprepared.
And then offensively, let's start with the power play. They have been off to a really solid start, more than 29% success rate, sixth right now in the NHL.
If you told me that was going to be the case, I would have laughed. I don't necessarily think anyone really enjoyed their power play last year. And then Andrei Kuzmenko has been such a huge addition since the trade deadline. And just really, as a whole, they've been able to kind of regenerate and jumpstart that power play.
How about Jonathan Huberdeau? I mean, 6 points in 5 games. Not a bad start for him.
No, absolutely not. And it's so funny because, everyone's been trying to figure out, how do you unlock Huberdeau? How do you get Florida Panthers, or close to it, Jonathan Huberdeau back? And it just took Anthony Mantha and Martin Pospisil to make that happen. And, it's great to see, because obviously he's struggled with his confidence because of the drop in production. And it's nice to kind of see him have his groove back and get it back into the swing of things and kind of have his swagger back.
Who has been the biggest surprise for you outside of the goaltending, who, has really contributed to this hot start?
I would say Jonathan Huberdeau, but I'm going to say probably Matt Coronado. He had a good camp, but Sam Honzek beat him out for a roster spot, and Coronado was still sticking around with the team. He wasn't playing with the Wranglers, but he's been able to come in and make huge contributions. He had a really big game against Edmonton last weekend, and then last he had a 2-goal game earlier this week, and it's just been very I don't want to say surprising, but it's just nice to see him stepping up and really taking this opportunity seriously.
Is this sustainable, and what will it take to sustain it?
I think anything is possible with this group, this team in general, like the work ethic and just the philosophical reasoning and everything that goes into the organization is you don't quit. You don't pack it in no matter how bad of a season you're having or how bad you're doing personally, like individually on the ice. You're showing up every day. And I think that that's kind of what drives them is this underdog mentality and, being underestimated night after night, all off season. I think it's going to really depend on everyone's health. Igor Sharangovich hasn't played a game yet. He's still on IR. Kevin Rooney's working his way back. And now Sam Honzik is out, considered week to week. So if they can stay healthy and stay right, then I think that that's the key there.
What is your biggest concern about this team? I mean, yeah, okay, good start, only one overtime loss so far, but what has you concerned?
I would say them burning out too quickly. It is a very long season, and I don't think this is not something that I see lasting all season long. Obviously, I think they're going to fall into that rut eventually, and I don't want to see that happen like a nosedive. I'm concerned about them maybe getting too ahead of themselves and start trading for players and being buyers versus maybe selling and diverting from the 3 to 5 year rebuild plan.
Who have some of the leaders been on this team? I mean, obviously with the expectations being a little bit down over the offseason, there had to be some leadership to get this team off to this good start. Who has stepped up?
Yeah, so Michael Backlund's the captain, and he's spent his whole career with the Flames. So I think that he's well versed in this kind of underdog, kind of no one expects us to win sort of role, as well as Huberdeau, Kadri, Blake Coleman is someone that is highly respected in the room. And even Ryan Lomberg, who was an off-season signing, has come in and been a real, just presence in the locker room and someone that, can pull you up by your bootstraps and keep you going.
Talk to me a little bit about the blue line, because we haven't really mentioned them yet.
Yeah, so I was very concerned about the defense at the end of last season. I did not have any idea how they were going to move forward with what they had. But they did make some adjustments and, adding Kevin Ball from the Jakob Markstrom trade, Jake Bean, and getting Rasmus Anderson and Mackenzie Weegar on their regular sides, I think has been very helpful. And just being able to help out the goaltending, because I did not foresee any of that happening. I just thought it was going to be all on Vladar and Wolf.
Biggest key to a successful season?
Keeping all the noise out. They do a very good job of that. And that's something that they talk about constantly. Like everything that they're doing is from internal reasoning and rationale. And I think that that's good because, I mean, what do people who don't work that and aren't around it all the time, like what do they truly know that's going to magically fix the team? But I think that just keeping, nose to the grindstone and just kind of just pushing forward, keeping that underdog mentality there.
All right, Jess, why don't you tell our viewers and our listeners where they could find the podcast and where they could find you on social media?
Yes, so you can find Locked On Flames wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube. And you can follow me on Twitter at Jess Belmosto.
All right, Jess, thanks so much. Always a pleasure.
Thank you.
Today's episode is brought to you by your friends at FanDuel. Hey, NFL fans, you could start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you could check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more, all on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. And look, this is the best time of the year for sports and sports betting. You've got baseball playoffs in full swing, college football, pro football in the middle of their seasons. Hockey is underway. Pro basketball is getting underway. So much. Check out all the odds for your favorite teams at FanDuel's website right now. Just, again, get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Head over to FanDuel.com. That's FanDuel.com. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook.